everything sucks and you're going to die one day. One of the reasons why I like to bring you the news is because I think it's fun. But truth be told, it hasn't really been very fun lately. So I think I actually might try to focus more on doing comedy sketches, because at least then I can have some fun, which is really part of the main reason as to why I'm doing this in the first place. Before I get into today's stories, I just want to thank Rick W. real quick. Thank you so much for your generous donation. All right, let's get to the news. Breaking. DC Chief Medical Examiner confirms Officer Brian Sicknick died of natural causes. And now, if you have been watching me, I have already reported on this weeks to months ago. I'm sure we can only guess as to why it took this long before Washington, D.C.'s chief medical examiner could come out and confirm what, if you've been watching me, you already knew, which was he died from a stroke. So Washington, D.C.'s chief medical examiner confirmed on Monday that Capitol Hill police officer Brian Sicknick suffered 2 strokes and died of natural causes. The Washington Post reports Sicknick died one day after pro-Trump rioters stormed the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., prompting many media outlets to falsely report that he was murdered by the rioters. The New York Times and the Associated Press, for example, reported Sicknick was bludgeoned to death with a fire extinguisher, claims which were repeated by cable news networks. Really just awful and disgusting, false claims, just made up pure garbage to demonize Trump supporters. And they just let this one ride. You know, they just let this lie continue to go on and on and on and on, so it could do maximum damage in their garbage attempts to impeach President Trump over doing something that he did not do. He did not call for violence during his speech on January 6th. As a matter of fact, he did the opposite. He said to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. But now you see, and I guess you've seen this for a while, these people, they don't care what they say or what they do. They will say anything. They will do anything. They will make up any lie at all. And they will just run with it. It's like the truth lives in a completely different dimension than what they live in. And we just have to keep exposing them. But the problem is, when you get too good at exposing them, they just have you removed. They, just like me, you know, I've been completely demonetized. I know the next step is for them to just take this channel down completely. So make sure you subscribe to me over at Rumble. And I also have a channel. This channel is mirrored over on Odyssey as well. The links will be down below. But I'm going to keep speaking the truth. Next up, I have this article from Town Hall, A Tale of Two Shootings. It's basically, I thought it was a good article, and it goes over the differences between Ashley Babbitt's shooting and then also this recent shooting of Dante Wright. On January 6th, decorated U.S. Air Force veteran Ashley Babbitt was killed by a U.S. Capitol police officer. She was among the crowd of protesters who entered the U.S. Capitol and was shot as she attempted to climb through a broken door outside the Speaker's lobby, an area that leads to the House chamber. Babbitt was unarmed and should not have been considered a threat by police officers. She was not a convicted criminal. In fact, she was a military hero. Babbitt served in the U.S. Air Force for over 12 years in various capacities. She deployed both to Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as to the United Arab Emirates twice. Babbitt received medals for her service in the Iraq campaign and the global war on terrorism. Last week, the Department of Justice announced that the officer who killed Babbitt would not be charged in her death. While this officer was being exonerated, Kim Potter, a 26-year veteran of the Brooklyn Center, Minnesota Police Force, was charged after she mistakenly shot and killed Dante Wright, a 20-year-old with a criminal record. Porter, along with 2 other officers, pulled over Wright's car because of an expired license plate. Once the officers determined that Wright was also wanted on an outstanding warrant, they attempted to arrest him. At that point, Wright resisted re-entering the vehicle and attempted to leave the scene. Attempting to stop Wright, Potter yelled taser and shot him. Actually, I think she yelled taser a couple times. Sadly, she used her weapon by mistake, tragically killing him. This part here just gets into a bit of his criminal history. He robbed a woman at gunpoint. Potter was charged with second-degree manslaughter and resigned from the police force after being put on administrative leave. In her letter of resignation, she said that she loved every minute of being a police officer and serving this community to the best of my ability. The death of Wright was considered an accident by the former Brooklyn Center Police Chief Tim Gannon. He was forced to resign last week after claiming that Potter had the intention to deploy her taser, but mistakenly shot Mr. Wright with a single bullet. According to Gannon, the fatal shooting appeared to be an accidental discharge. After being arrested, Potter was released after posting a $100,000 bond. If convicted, she faces a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. Her life will never be the same, and her 26-year record as a police officer will be completely disregarded. The mistaken shooting has led to protests throughout the country and calls for Potter to be convicted. In their reporting on the tragedy, the media focused on the fact that Potter is white while Dante Wright was an African American. Of course, there was no media coverage for the fact that the officer who killed Babbitt, a white victim, is an African American. The issue of race is often considered when the victim is African American and the officer is white. When the roles are reversed, it seems to receive almost no attention from the media. The officer who killed Babbitt has not been identified. He is being protected by the Department of Justice, which decided not to charge him in Babbitt's death. According to federal prosecutors, there was sufficient evidence to prove that Babbitt's civil rights were violated. The prosecutors also stated that the unidentified officer's actions were reasonable. However, was it reasonable to shoot Babbitt, a small woman that could have easily been stopped with a taser? Why did the officer use his weapon to shoot an unarmed woman? While Potter has been charged and is no longer a police officer, the U.S. Capitol police officer has returned to his job after being placed on administrative leave. He has been totally cleared of wrongdoing and has faced limited backlash for his questionable actions. Why the difference in how these two cases were handled? Some believe it is another example of the double standard of justice that exists in our country today, while Republicans and conservatives such as Roger Stone, former Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, and many other associates of President Donald Trump have faced severe consequences for their actions. Democrats are often unpunished. The list of Democrats who have received lenient treatment from the Department of Justice include Hillary Clinton for all of those involved in the Russian collusion hoax, the lackluster Durham investigation into this matter that has been going on for years and has produced almost nothing of value. Recently, it was discovered that the FBI took possession of Hunter Biden's laptop in December of 2019. In the last 16 months, despite the scandalous material on the laptop and the sordid allegations against him, there have been no charges filed against Biden and no update on the status of that investigation. While the FBI has vigorously pursued those involved in the breach of security of the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, there has been very little enthusiasm to prosecute those left-wing agitators involved in the 275 riots last summer, or the ones participating in the ongoing riots in Portland, Minneapolis, and many other cities. And I just like to point out that the mainstream media, they're still carrying on about this. It's just, January 6th, the insurrection at the Capitol, it's the worst thing ever. And they're completely ignoring all of the riots that are actually going on right now. The FBI director claimed he is investigating Antifa, but the organizers and main benefactors of that terrorist organization have not been brought to justice. And frankly, I'm tired of waiting for that. This leads many to conclude that American justice is no longer blind. It can see, but only conservatives. And oh my goodness, isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Yeah, I was talking with a family member about the whole January 6th thing, and my family member was saying to me that some of these people who've been arrested have been saying that Donald Trump told them to do that. And that's why, of course, he was guilty of inciting an insurrection. And he should have been impeached and removed, and the Senate should have found him guilty as well. And I have been trying to explain to them things like this. These people are terrified. So DC corrections officer brutally beat January 6th U.S. Capitol protester, zip tie his hands, fracture his skull, and blind him in one eye. This is some of what is happening to these, and in a lot of cases, I mean, they are innocent people who had no idea that anything was going on, and the cops just, opened up the doors and let them in and stood down, and now they're being swept up and they're being beaten, they're being abused, they're being kept locked up 23 hours out of the day in isolation. I mean, this has got to stop, but this is definitely one of the worst here. Ryan Samsel was leading the charge against Capitol Police on the January 6th protests. Samuel pushed the flimsy bike racks and stormed the Capitol. Samsel reportedly injured a female police officer. Since his arrest, Samsel has been held in Washington, D.C. On March 21st, he was awakened by correctional officers, his hands zip-tied, and then walked to an unoccupied cell and brutally beaten by the officers. Ryan Samsel lost an eye in the beating. This is why people are saying Trump told me to go into the building and Trump incited this and this is Trump's fault. It's because people are scared. They're terrified. And they're being beaten. They're being brutalized. Like Trump supporter. This is awful. This is not America. This is not justice. You are innocent until proven guilty. And you're not supposed to be in jail. And then the guards, oh gosh, just beat you and beat you and beat you. This is the gulag. This is stuff that's supposed to happen in other countries, not ours. Politico reported for weeks, Capitol riot defendants being held in Washington have complained that they are locked in their cells with virtually no human contact for 23 hours a day. But a startling graphic account offered publicly in court on Tuesday by one such inmate, Ronald Sandlin, went further, alleging the guards have subjected those charged in January 6th events to violence, threats, and verbal harassment. Myself and others involved in the January 6th incident are scared for their lives, but not from each other, but from the correctional officers, Sandlin said during a bail hearing conducted by video before the U.S. District Court Judge Dabney Friedrich. I don't understand how this is remotely acceptable, he added, saying that he was being subjected to mental torture. Well, it is not. It is not okay. In an unusual direct plea to the judge, Sandlin said another Capitol riot defendant, Ryan Samsel, was severely beaten by correctional officers and is now blind in one eye and has a skull fracture and a detached retina. Sandlin also described racial tension between minority guards and the largely white defendants, some of whom have been publicly accused of membership in or association with white supremacist groups, which actually doesn't mean anything anymore. I mean, the term white supremacist, the term racist, these are meaningless words. It basically just means that you're pro-life and pro-Second Amendment. God forbid someone come across an actual real racist. There won't be any words left to describe them. It was all a setup. Even the New York Times admits police ordered to stand down on January 6th, yet the DOJ and the FBI are harassing and indicting innocent Americans, proving they are corrupt. Yet Pelosi refused Trump's offer before that day for National Guard troops at the Capitol. Director Wray continues to lie and say that there is no evidence of Antifa at the Capitol that day. Now the DOJ is indicting innocent Americans invited into the Capitol by the police. It's not right. It's not justice, and America knows it. And in my long form video that's on Rumble all about January 6th, I play the videos that were taken by John Sullivan, aka Jaden X, who clearly is a left-wing activist who's there. I show him damaging property, inciting a riot, all kinds of things. Somehow I can find the information. I've also showed you before the messages on Discords and other social medias from groups like the Boogaloo Boys saying that they had teams in there. So I can find all this proof, but the FBI can't. And this just about breaks your heart. Pregnant single mother raided by the FBI, detained for a week after going through an open door at the U.S. Capitol, now faces over 30 years in prison. All right, looks like she has a 10-year-old son. January 6th in D.C. was unlike anything she would experience in her wholesome and quiet life in Arizona, which consists of spending time in her small mobile home, gardening, taking care of her animals, and homeschooling. Knold still did not realize it was a protest when she followed the crowd of fellow Trump supporters to the Capitol. The door to the building was open, and police seemed to be allowing people inside, so she went in. She was kind and friendly to police and left quickly after she was told that people were not supposed to be there. When the arrest of Capitol rioters started, she assumed she was okay. After all, she did no harm. She thought that the people who were being arrested were the ones who were violent or engaging in vandalism, not the peaceful people like her. A month after the protest, she was yanked from her bed at gunpoint by the FBI. Her entire street was blocked off and crowded with unmarked vehicles. Her small mobile home was raided, and a 2-page long list of her belongings were seized. Knold is 4 months pregnant. Her son has always wanted a sibling. The expecting mother was detained for an entire week. Bizarrely, the FBI told her not to speak to other law enforcement agencies. Upon her release, she found that her social media accounts were all removed. She was even banned from the stock trading app Webull. The media was smearing her as an insurrectionist and painting her to be somebody that she is not, while all traces of her life and who she really is vanished from the internet. Without social media, it is nearly impossible to defend yourself from these smears. The media could now paint her as a cartoon villain, as any cartoon villain they wanted, and people could not look at her happy and normal social media accounts to see otherwise. Speaking to the Gateway Pundit, Knold said that she would just like to say that myself nor 90% of the people hunted down and rotting in jail are who they are making us out to be. Through the tireless efforts of Americans, the truth will prevail. Along with losing her social media to spread awareness of the reality of the situation, she's also been placed on house arrest and can no longer earn an income because she was a gig worker, and law enforcement claims it's too hard to track. While dealing with all the discomfort that comes with pregnancy, her ankle is also being damaged by the monitor. She's receiving threatening hate letters in the mail. She's been given a court-appointed attorney who seems to have very little interest in actually proving her innocence. And yeah, she's now trying to raise funds so she can get an attorney that actually cares. Those who wish to contribute can do so at Venmo at Felicia-Knold-1. People are being abused. People are being lied about. People are being arrested for no reason. I'm just so sick of everything. I'm sick of being demonized. I'm sick of the double standards. I'm sick of the unfair treatment. But at least there is something to look forward to, and that is the audit that's coming up in Arizona. I'll cover the Arizona information in a video that I'll probably just have to exclusively post to Rumble because you know how things are here. But let's keep fighting. Let's keep pushing ahead, and I'll see you over on Rumble soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and please share it. You can help us continue to fight in the war against disinformation by donating at paypal.me/rightleftofcenter. I'm River Wright from Right Left of Center, and if you're watching, you're probably right too.